Have you been wanting to make your engine bay look awesome, but you're afraid of causing damage to it? Well, in this video, I'm going to share a strategy that allows you to clean any engine bay safely, so you can make yours go from looking like this to looking like this, all without any new check engine lights. And later, I'll go through exactly how I cleaned up this E36 M3's engine bay step by step. Now, here's the thing. We can all agree that washing the exterior of your car is always a good idea, right? Well, detailing your engine bay is a bit of a different story. There are two opposing schools of thought here, and they basically come down to this. On one side, you have the detailers that claim that you can hit any vehicle with a pressure washer and never have an issue. And on the other side, we have the mechanics who claim you should never clean your engine at all. They're both wrong, and that's because there's no one-size-fits-all answer that suits every single vehicle. You have to use your brain and some common sense to figure out which strategy is right for your specific vehicle. And it's important to understand that damage caused from getting your engine bay wet might not present itself right away. I share free tips like this in the Gearhead Grinds newsletter every week, so hit the link down below to sign up if you want your car to look awesome. Some of the variables that you're going to need to consider are the age and the condition of the vehicle in the first place. Are things getting brittle, worn out, aged, cracked? Also pay attention to known failures that are related to moisture. So if your specific model of car is known for really finicky coil packs or something like that, that if they're introduced to any moisture, you end up with some common problems on that platform, it's obviously not a great idea to get your engine bay wet on purpose then. And also the level of modification for your vehicle. So if you have like an exposed air filter or a bunch of aftermarket parts that might not be as weather resistant as the OEM ones were. Once you paint a clear picture of the condition of your vehicle, now you can figure out which method suits it the best. The good news is it's totally possible to clean any engine bay safely. The question isn't whether or not it can be done, it's how long it's going to take you. So you have 4 methods to choose from here. You can use a pressure washer, you can use a garden hose, you can use a steam cleaner, or you can just dry wipe it and not introduce any running water whatsoever. If a newer vehicle isn't known for having sensitive electronics, using a pressure washer is fine as long as you use your head, which apparently is kind of difficult for some people. Don't use more than 1000 psi, hold it at a safe distance, and don't aim it directly at things like your alternator or coil packs or any electrical connection. These are engineered to be water resistant, not waterproof. Totally different. Now that doesn't mean that they absolutely can't get wet though. For example, my Harley Davidson has very similar looking electrical connections on it, and yet I've ridden that bike in downpours that were so bad my tires were hydroplaning, and despite being 23 years old, I have never had a single electrical problem with that bike. You just have to be reasonable. High pressure water can push past seals and gaskets pretty easily. On my 4Runner in Tacoma, I pressure wash the engine bays without even covering anything up. Obviously, I don't spray it directly at electronics though. The thing is, these are super reliable trucks and they're engineered for pretty extreme conditions. Now, would I treat my 34-year-old highly modified MR2 the same way? Heck no. This one I've got to be much more gentle with. If high pressure water feels a little too aggressive for your car, you can step down to using a garden hose. But a lot of people don't realize that you have to be careful with this for a completely different reason. You see, while you are spraying water at a much lower pressure, you're also spraying a lot more of it. And if you don't believe me, try filling up a bucket with water from a pressure washer and then do it with a garden hose and see how long it takes you. The hose is safer when it comes to pressure, but the pressure washer, believe it or not, is safer when it comes to not flooding your engine bay with a lot of water. So while you might not have to worry about pushing water past the seals of connectors, you do have to worry about it puddling in certain areas and then seeping down into spots that it shouldn't be. There are 2 ways to avoid water pooling in your engine when you're using a garden hose. Number 1, use a nozzle with a shower setting. And number 2, keep it moving, never stay just in one spot. Think of it like using a polisher on your paint job. If you stay in one spot for too long, you run the risk of burning through your clear coat. You gotta keep it moving. And that same technique is gonna help you here as well. And remember that regardless of whether you're using a garden hose or a pressure washer, only get it wet enough to rinse what you need to rinse. A great rule of thumb is to keep it as dry as possible and as wet as necessary. Now, if you really want to minimize how wet things get, you can break out a steam cleaner. I prefer to do this on vintage or highly modified cars. And the way that I do it is I spray my cleaner of choice onto an area, I agitate it with a brush, then I hit it with a steam cleaner and wipe it up with a towel. Of course, you're still dealing with some moisture here, but it's so much easier to control exactly what gets wet and what doesn't. You still don't want to hit sensitive electronics with this directly if you don't have to, but overall, it's a lot safer. It also, as you would expect, takes a lot longer to clean an entire engine bay this way, so there's definitely a clear trade-off there. And lastly, if I absolutely don't want to get an engine bay wet, I'll use a waterless wash or a detail spray on a towel and just spot clean it that way. This is perfectly safe, but there are a couple downsides. It's going to take you a long time to clean every individual component of an engine bay this way. It's also hard to reach certain areas with just a towel. It works best on dusty engine bays and not anything that has a lot of heavy grease and grime. If you own a modern car where everything is pretty much covered up with plastic, this is all you'll ever really need to do. Regardless of which one of these methods you choose, the key with any engine detailing is to never chase perfection. Just make it look good when you pop the hood and get it clean enough to be able to spot oil leaks. Don't push it too far. So, we talked about the variables that dictate how sensitive your car is, as well as the 4 methods that you can choose from in order to get your engine clean. Now let's get to work on cleaning up the engine bay of this beautiful E36 M3. I'm going to be using a garden hose on this one because even though the engine bay is fairly simple, this car is 30 years old with over 200,000 on the clock. As the plastic and rubber components age, they can become brittle and less effective at sealing. So what was once pretty weatherproof might not be anymore, and I don't want to run the risk of using a pressure washer here. Overall, this engine bay is in great shape. It just has a layer of dirt on it that needs to be cleaned up. As far as products and tools go, I keep it pretty simple. I'm using Meguiar's Super Degreaser with a few of my wheel brushes to fit into the different areas, as well as a bucket of soapy water to rinse them in. That's it. Make sure your engine is cool to the touch before you begin, and ideally, you'll want to do this in the shade. If you're stuck with working out in the sunshine, position the car so that the hood creates shade over the engine. You don't want to let these cleaners dry on the surface, so it's best to take the sun right out of the equation. I started by picking any loose leaves and debris out from the wiper cowl area and along the fenders. While doing this, I'm also inspecting the engine for any exposed wiring or damage that I need to watch out for. Next, I'm covering up anything that I don't want to get wet. In this case, I'm just putting a towel over the alternator and everything else seems pretty well sealed up. You can cover up things like an exposed air filter, distributor, carburetor, or coil packs if needed. Work from the top down. A lot of people miss the underside of the hood, but it's one of the first things that you see when you open it. Be careful around the insulation though. This stuff deteriorates and crumbles as it gets older, so I try not to get it wet if I don't have to, and I'm super careful with any scrubbing. I don't want to spray any more water on this car than absolutely necessary, so I'm skipping the pre-rinse and going straight to spraying my cleaner. Some people find it overwhelming to tackle the whole bay at once, so you can break it up into sections and do it one at a time. I'm using the biggest brush first to fit into as many places as I can, then whatever I can't reach, I'll come back with a smaller one. You'll notice that I'm being pretty conservative with how much water I'm spraying. Perhaps the most important part of this entire process is how you dry it. You've got to be thorough here, but you also need to be careful. Using compressed air or a leaf blower will do a great job of removing most of the water. But if you hold it too close, you can actually push water past seals, so don't do that. Keep it at a safe distance and be mindful of the angle that you blow the water. Don't point it towards something sensitive if you don't have to. You want to evacuate the water away from that. When I blow dry the exterior of a car, I run this leaf blower full throttle, but for added safety, I have it set at a lower speed here. Don't forget to remove anything that you had covered up before you start the engine. Leave yourself a note on the keys or the dashboard if you have to. I like to start the car up and let it warm up to operating temperature after blowing it dry. The vibrations shake any pooled water free, and the heat helps to evaporate anything else left behind. It also gives you a chance to see that everything is functioning properly. Now that everything is clean and dry, I'm going to dress the rubber and plastics. I'm using Meguiar's Hyper Dressing here, and I'm just spraying it on and letting it sit for a while, then coming back and lightly buffing any areas that have excessive product. If you want to spread the dressing into the hard to reach areas, you can use compressed air, but once again, be careful with the amount of pressure you use. Now we have a nice, clean and dressed engine bay that looks so much better on this M3. If you want to take it up a notch and make it look better than everyone else's, try using a cleaner wax or an all-in-one polish on the painted surfaces like the underside of the hood and the strut towers. It'll really make it shine. Now, keep in mind that some detailers are a little on the reckless side. They might post a video of them spraying a pressure washer directly at an alternator and say, "See, nothing bad happened." But the problem is, electrical gremlins tend to reveal themselves later on down the road, long after the customer picked up the car from the detail shop. And on the other hand, some mechanics are drama queens about it. And let's face it, fear-mongering gets clicks on the internet. And apparently so does faking your own death once a week. If we're being reasonable, I think we can find the truth somewhere in the middle here. I'm basing everything that I've talked about in this video on my own experience with my own vehicles that I've owned, as well as ones that are owned by friends and family members that I'm staying up to date on, not weeks or months, but years afterward. I've been doing this to my Tacoma for 5 years, my 4Runner for 10, and I've owned this MR2 for over 20 years now, and I've never had a single electrical problem with any of them. But that's not to say that you won't, and that's why it's so important that you do your own due diligence for your specific vehicle and tailor your strategy for it. If your gut tells you this is a bad idea, then don't do it. Just stick with the dry wiping method and put some elbow grease to it. You can still get it clean. It's just gonna take you forever. Don't forget, if you want free tips to make your car look awesome, delivered straight to your inbox every week, sign up below. And if you want to see some of the work that I did to the exterior of that M3, as well as some tips to make your car shine without polishing its paint, watch this video next.